Welcome to the Outsider Media Group. Where we talk battle rap from top tier, mid tier to lower tier. It's nobody. Tonight, me and Caleb, we will chop it up with ellipsis tonight, man. How y'all fellas doing, man?
Doing
Hey,
well, man. It's good to be here.
oh, that's a fact, man. About to say we've been trying to set this up for a minute. This definitely a very anticipated one.
Big facts. Yeah, this has been time in the making, so I'm glad we could get this penciled in.
But yeah, man. All right. So let's just go ahead and get it cracking. First off, current events. Expensive battle alert. Ellipsis versus Chrome booked, man. Talk about it.
Alarm
Feeling
going
about it.
off. Yeah, man, that's the expensive heat coming up. I know he's been wanting that battle for a minute. I've been seeing that battle coming for a minute. I think we've both been preparing for it a little longer than it's been announced. So it'll be cool. I'm excited to see what he has to say. I've definitely got some things to say to him. Me and that boy are gonna have a talk.
I was about to say I'm not gonna downplay him in any way, but I do prefer your pen over his. I think it's still definitely gonna be a clip full of heaters, but
Word.
I mean, about to say both of y'all's last performances, y'all had Chilla both, right? The last time. Last,
I think we've both.
well,
Yeah,
no,
that was definitely because
okay,
he was in the UK against Hull,
yeah,
and
I
then
forgot that he just dropped.
yeah. So and then he actually I think just had a French battle in Montreal, which is kind of wild.
I think
So
I've heard about that. Yeah, about to say that's definitely breaking barriers for battle rap. Um,
yeah, respect to
I
him
will
for that
say
for sure.
this. I will say this. I do kind of feel like you might have fared better against Chilla than maybe he did. Um,
Word.
but about to
Yeah,
say let's go ahead and talk about that. You and Chilla dropped, man. It was a little bit it was a little bit of a wait, but I think it was definitely worth it. How'd you feel about the battle, man?
yeah, man. It was definitely a minute for that to come out, but it's definitely been dope seeing really all of the joints from that event coming out. Like me and Chilla, Marvin Cope just dropped, and that's
Facts.
Cope is the homie, but crazy. And so it was just an honor to have him coming up. But me and Chilla especially, yeah, man, that was a war. I think I definitely could have fared a little better and executed a little better just on the performance piece, which I know is definitely kind of the component that I tend to struggle a little bit more with. As far as the writing, I was satisfied. I think there is a really strong narrative, especially going sort of back and forth bar for bar with him. So I thought that was hella fun. It was really cool to test my pen against somebody who's known as a writer like Chilla is. So
Yeah,
that was a challenge, but hella fun.
exactly. I mean, we'll get back to this in just a second, but I want to speak in the third and get your mindset on it. Yeah, I think you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean. You could see the hesitation on your face before the rebuttal. You know what I mean. What was going through your mind at that point?
Word. Well, I mean, there's always, and I think, especially in the second, having a rebuttal that didn't really land, there's this sort of trepidation as to whether to rebuttal or not, just off rip, right? You're like, is it
Mm,
really going to be worth it? Is the reaction going to warrant adding this additional component that can go either way? Or do I just, go on with my material? And so that was
exactly.
really, I think, weighing that on my part.
That and I mean, it was kind of a touchy subject, I guess. You know what I mean. He was speaking
Yeah, yeah, that's
his mother's health issues, and you were
for
like, "Oh,
sure.
hold on a minute."
Yeah, low key, hella great about that. Like I was kind of that's part of the trepidation too, right? I'm like, am I really going to take it there? Is that something we are going to speak on? And it was really just kind of a snap decision as to how he wanted to push sort of his trap with the rhetorical question in the third. Because
Yeah,
I
and
was like,
that's what I was gonna ask too. About to say you played defense very well against that. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, like what really went into it is I forget what was really my mindset at that point, but I do kind of remember zoning out a little bit when he went into that because I tend to kind of tune out, especially at this point, the whole atheist angle. So I'm like,
Uh-huh.
it's kind of something that's been done before. So I kind of snapped back into it when he's just like repeating the same question. I'm like, oh, word, okay, let's see where this goes. And then he just like keeps asking if I can explain it. I'm like, if you're really gonna press me, like I'll say gonna be dumb. It's gonna be like low key tasteless, but I'll speak on it. Sure, let's go there.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, either way, I got you taking the battle 2-1. You know what I mean? I felt like Chilla's second was insane.
Mm-hmm.
But I about to say it was definitely a dope ass battle. You've had a recent run, I guess you would call it, other than battling what's his name? Cheddar Cheese. You know what I mean? Which to be fair, he is a vet in his own right, but I'm speaking more on like internationally known vets, you know what I mean? The
Mm-hmm.
real deals, the Thesauruses, the Chilla Joneses. I just kind of wanted to touch on each of those, you know what I mean? About to say the first big break, I guess. Well, actually, let's take it back a little bit even further. You know what I mean? The first battle that I personally saw you in was you and Farrell, and that was
Word. Okay.
fucking that was some heaters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. Farrell's crazy, man.
How'd you feel? About to say, well, how'd that battle get set up? How'd you feel about it?
That was actually in the works for just a minute and change. That both me and Farrell, he used to post a little more regularly. I'm still on there, but like not on there like I used to be. But we were both regulars on RMBVA when that site was really popping. And then
Okay.
so, especially as both of us began to sort of ascend the ranks, get a little more respective notoriety, it's something that the homie Willie B, who does a lot of the bookings out in Van, really wanted to get that match. So this was like I think before Farrell even battled Dot, and like before I had been on the main page at all. Yeah, so it was like a while that was going down. Actually, when I wound up battling Sketch Menace, which was my first King of the Dot main page battle.
Mm-hmm.
That was originally booked as me versus Farrell, and then it wound up just getting postponed past that just due to some logistical complications.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was definitely in the works for a while before that went down.
About to say, and I mean, y'all both came with the clip loaded. You know what I mean? I wasn't familiar with your work. You know what I mean? But I the outsider media, we do try to give everyone a shot. You know what I mean? You can't fairly assess saying someone's trash if you haven't heard their content. You know what I mean? But and I was like, damn, like this guy has a very crazy pen. He has a good delivery. You know what I mean? It's I mean, you definitely do have a now it was less so in that battle. You kind of more so owned the what should I say, the hipster chic image. You know what I mean?
Word, yeah. That has been in development as well, low key.
But I mean, it's definitely a very unique brand. You know what I mean? And I understand that like certain audiences in battle rap, that's not their forte. You know what I mean? So they might not try to give you a chance. But I mean, in terms of just bars and writing, I really think you're one of the top over there. You know what I mean, on that side of the fence.
Hey, that's dope, man. I hella appreciate that, and that for sure it is something that's like an acquired taste, and I appreciate that. I try to be as objective about it as I can be, but at this point, I'm comfortable with the lane that I'm in, and I just want to be kind of authentic to that.
Exactly. All right. So about to say then we had a talk with the chef, man.
Oh yeah, man, that was a cooking class.
About to
That
say,
was something.
how did that get set up?
That was definitely took a little doing as well. It was at that point that I hadn't battled in a minute. I'd been trying to hop on cards, and it just wasn't happening due to various sort of unforeseen circumstances. We had matches locked that didn't go down. Some of them still might happen in the future, so I don't want to get too deep into that. But it was definitely something where there was a couple weeks where Willie was like trying to lock something every week, and I'd like start writing for someone, and then it just would fall by the wayside. So that was sort of this last stitch effort that he threw out. He's just like, yo, like I don't know if he's going to be down, but I know that he's somebody who does appreciate up and coming talent, so I'm going to holler at Real Deal and see how he feels about taking that match. And to Trav's credit, he was with it, and that's one of the things I really just how much he looks out for up and coming talent and is willing to take those kind of matches.
Yeah, I'm about to say, Real Deal is definitely a real one. He's one of the cats in the scene that he first off foremost, he's been in every type of scene. He's been in the grind time, the URL, the King of the
Facts.
Dot, and I don't think he really gets as much credit or respect as he should get, not only for being able to adapt to those different kinds of environments, but for how much he works to put on the new talent and prepare the future of battle rap. You know what I mean? I feel
Oh,
like
huge fact.
he's kind of one of those guys that I feel like will be more appreciated as a legend after he's gone, after the game is over.
For sure, yeah. He's definitely severely underrated for his contributions and just how versatile and hardworking he is. So salute the chef, man.
That's a
Absolutely.
fact. So, about to say, but how the battle itself?
Man, I feel like low key that might be the proudest I am of a 3 round performance to this date. There's
Okay.
been bits where, here and there, I reach a level sort of beyond what I do at any point individually. But as
Mhm.
far as just 3 constructed rounds, a narrative, a back and forth with a vet who's killing it as well, that is definitely a crowning achievement in my catalog. And I'm really, really proud of what we put on with that one.
Yeah, exactly. And then about to say after that, you got to show off your best Christmas sweater against Mr. Two Time Everything.
Facts, yeah, yeah. Had to get festive for that one.
So about to say, how did y'all get that one set up? Because I
That was
remember. Let me say first, I do remember. I believe right before he battled you, or it was one or the other. You and Geechee battled Thesaurus in a close proximity.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I think it was like a week previous because he's a machine like that. But yeah, it
Yeah,
was something where it was just 2 radically different opponents that he's taking in such a short span.
but
But
all
yeah,
right.
man,
So how'd you feel about the battle in itself, though?
that was a lot of fun. Like to me, that honestly felt like less of a battle and more of a showcase. Because Pete, especially, his performance is insane. His projection, his crowd control, just consummate showman. So it was really cool to be able to witness that in this sort of front row capacity, especially when I got to go first and I had the shit in my third about what was it? Him being Cold Stone Steve Austin, which I
Yeah,
still think is funny as shit. But then just to see sort of the thought process of when he comes up with his flip for that and to have been just already done. And at that point, like I'm just back to being a fan. You know what I mean? So
exactly. I mean, it's a very humbling experience to stand.
absolutely, man, it's a trip. It's very surreal to be in those situations now that I really would never have expected just as a fan of this before I really hopped in the ring like that.
And then all right. So how did you and Chilla get set up?
That was another one that definitely had been discussed, especially when I was starting to go on that run of those main stage guys of the Ferals and Real Deals and Cheddars and Sauruses. After that, it was like, okay, so like this kid is known for his writing. Let's see who would logically match with that. Like, who else can we really test that against, and who can we do it in a way that it hasn't been tested yet? Because I mean, all of the guys I battled really have been really versatile writers. If you look at Pete and Trev and even like Cheddar, like the way that he structures and just how well wrapped it is, that's based on how well written it is as a foundation. But Chilla is definitely just a technical writer in a way that those guys aren't necessarily. So that was how do you adapt to that? How do we, give Ill a test when he's hanging with these guys? So that was sort of the narrative and the impetus behind that getting set up.
Um. All right. So, and okay. So go ahead and tell us about the Cheddar battle too, because that happened around that time as well, right?
Yeah, that was actually in between Real Deal and Thesaurus was the Cheddar battle, which sort of got booked in. I wouldn't say last minute per se, but definitely on kind of shorter notice than I'm generally working with. But it was an interesting event. I know Sparker really wanted to do a Halloween event, which is tight, man. Like I love that Vancouver is a scene that doesn't take itself as seriously as some others may. So we can definitely have a little more fun and experiment with those kind of elements. But it was definitely because it was marketed that way. It wasn't 100% a battle crowd. It was almost like kind of a rave vibe, and a lot of casuals that came by that weren't necessarily there for the battles. So I don't know if the atmosphere really benefited from that. But I mean, we also do still want to reach out and expand the demographic and the appeal and get new people interested in it, right? So I feel like even if we're bringing a couple new people to it and some aren't all the way with it, but some really, really vibe with it and they're trying to come back to events, that's what's going to keep the scene growing. So it was an interesting,
No, go ahead.
No, so it was an interesting event, but it was definitely a learning experience. And how do you really cater your performance to people who don't have that background working knowledge of what the culture is? Feel me?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I want to kind of like take this opportunity to speak to that because I know that over the past few years, that's been something y'all have been trying to beef up the Vancouver scene. You know what I mean? I don't want to say underdeveloped because like there's the level of talent is there, maybe underutilized and underappreciated, I would say.
For real, and I think that's a good way of looking at it, and that I always hope to do, being on the main page and getting these sort of opportunities now, is to really get more eyes on what we're doing with just the entirety of the Vancouver talent pool, because there's a really deep and diverse roster we've got here, and I think it's a lot of people that could really use those same opportunities. So really my goal is to have more of us on the main page getting a spotlight on the city.
Yeah, exactly. I know how to say they have you and Chrome, they're trying to bring light to that. I know Pigsty has recently returned. He's been making his noise again. He's definitely fucking insane. But
absolutely.
About to say, but y'all got a few killers out there though, man.
Facts, man. There's definitely, I mean, I'm really predisposed to kind of fuck with people who are stylistically more similar to me. So like guys like Jaws and Gingerbread Man and G Show's just on the come up now. Just all really technical writers, really insane pens from all of those guys. But then there's just a lot of diversity with people's backgrounds and where they're coming into the scene from. Guys like Cope, who's got just such a theatrical approach. Patch, who really comes into it from a theater background, and he's got just this crazy showman's command and crowd control. Dudes like Dext One and DP, who are more that kind of street shit, that punch heavy, just super wordplay scheme. Like all of these people who are coming from different backgrounds and have just their own style that they've defined for themselves. It's super tight to see.
Shouts to DP. I saw he did recently get a shot on the URL PGs, I believe. So
yeah, DP was on URL. So big shouts to him, man. That's huge for us.
Exactly, that's a big move, not only for Vancouver, but really for like all of Canada. You know what I mean? Franchise has been making his name, but for the most part, I mean, people don't believe that like a Canadian talent could make it on that type of street league, I suppose you would say.
Yeah. So I'm proud of that boy. He's proven him wrong.
But all right. Well, that kind of leads me to my next question. So, how I mean, okay, let's talk real quick. Young Viral. How did you get into originally wanting to battle rap? Because I mean, you had the viral clip of you years ago. You know what I mean? How many years ago was that at this point?
That was, I mean, I was in high school at that point, man. So this is making me feel old. I want to say that was like 7 years ago at this point.
Okay. You were like wild. 16, right?
Yeah. Year is just before I graduated. That shit went down.
About to say, Dre, I'm not sure if you were aware of it, but the man got 3 million plus views on that so far.
Yeah, it's I was just looking at that earlier. It's like 3.2, I want to say.
So that's kind of crazy. So what made you want to start battle rapping? Was it that clip or did it happen before then?
Yeah, so that was definitely a huge factor in it for sure. It was something that it was around that time that I was getting really into it as a fan. I'd kind of stumbled into it through just this long YouTube chain of sort of finding out about Dumbfounded through like a Thirsty Fish freestyle video on G4, and then falling down that rabbit hole and seeing his grind time battles, and then just really falling in love with it from there. But it wasn't until that battle that I'd really given any thought to actually doing it myself. And so, like, definitely being in that, not even knowing it was being filmed too. So that was just like kind of a trip to me, like when somebody uploaded it on the Monday after and they're like, yo, this went down. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, this is just like a filmed battle now. Yeah. And then it just blew up in a way that I don't think anybody anticipated.
And what do you attribute that to? Do you think it was just like the clickbait title, or were there other factors, or what?
Yeah, I think there was definitely kind of a novelty element to it. Like the sort of the youth, the fact that you've got, you know, like the kid eating thermos soup, like shouts to Thermos Boy. That's the homie. But yeah, man, so there were just like all of these kind of elements to it that the interruption from the teacher, there were just these little sort of almost
nuances.
Pastiche. Yeah. These sort of vignettes within the battle that I think just made it really sort of accessible to a broader demographic.
Yeah, exactly. So and then you did your career for a while. About to say, we had a little while back, we had Matt, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on that battle real quick, because I remember that was like, looking at both of you back then and where you're at now, it's almost night and day, almost, honestly.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's a quantum leap for both of us, I'd say, but definitely more so for me. Like, he was already in his bag. I think he had a much better sense of identity and what he was doing. I think to this day that he got me in that battle, regardless of the judges' decision.
I'm about to say, that's not what the judges said, though.
Yeah, no, and I was, at the time, I was like, okay, sick. Well, the judges said I won, so I must have won. And then especially as there is sort of the shift to pro opinion not meaning as much, it being more of a fan consensus or really just your gut reaction watching something, I'm like, you know, like, slip up notwithstanding, he got me. Like, he was just so much more polished. I think his material came across as a lot less forced, a lot more relevant to me. So, and I tell him that to this day too. Yeah, I think he got me. So I'm ducking that rematch smoke.
Facts. But and then you got gentleman's name. I'm forgetting his name on World Dom. You know the one.
Yeah. Isaac Knox, who nicest fucking guy you will ever meet. That guy is a gentleman.
You might be a dick then for kind of how you were talking to him.
Hey, I felt terrible, man. It was kind of funny, that event. It was definitely very much on battle rap time, where it was the poster says doors at 4. So I get there and it's basically just me and Isaac there. Yeah. And then by the time we battle, it's like 8, like shooting the shit, befriending each other for 4.5 hours.
And then
the whole time I'm just man. Like, I don't want to do him dirty like that. This is a nice guy. We'd be homies in another situation.
Yeah. So, about to say, but I mean, you did have the. Was that the first time you'd ever really used in a battle?
Yeah, like that was definitely, and that's why I do get not frustrated necessarily, but a little perturbed when it's something that's brought up as regularly as it is, because that's really the only battle I've ever used that as, you know, subject matter, and because I'm battling somebody who has been marketed, doesn't necessarily market himself as a Christian rapper, but that's definitely a big component of his identity. So it was because it was specific and relevant to him that I really wanted to kind of build that straw man.
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, it was definitely a dope performance. So, what do you plan on doing in the future? Like, who do you have a hit list per se? Not necessarily a hit list, but some people that you want to get it in with before it's all over.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily a hit list. There's people that I think personally, I feel like Cortez is just like somebody who I think would be fucking hilarious to battle, because he always comes across as taking himself more seriously than I think I would take him in that sort of matchup. But I mean, there's names that get thrown around like Soul, which I feel like that's a jump. I hella fuck with Soul. Soul has been in my top 5 for a minute. I'm a big proponent of him. I'm glad to see him get the credit that he's due now. So that's something that I fuck with the match, but I know I would have to be on my A+ game for that. So that's very motivating to try to get to a point where I think that would be really an even back and forth.
Uh-huh. Well, let me ask this. You in Vancouver right now, we always like to, wherever, like, if it's an underdeveloped scene or underutilized or whatever, like if there's some people that you feel are slept on, I want to give you this chance to plug who you have some views, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Definitely going back to some of the guys here. So that crop of Jaws, G-Show, Ginger, Pigsty, absolutely killing it. DDSS, I'm so stoked to have brought him back into the ring. Dudes like Cope, who just puts his heart into it. The homies, Patch, Redshirt Mike, shout out Quality Control, Baradactyl, before he retired to go enact actual political change in Ottawa. Salute the boy for that. But yeah, man, just there's such a talent pool here. Cody the Catch, I don't know if he's still doing this. I feel like he's on a bit of a hiatus right now. But when he was, like, at what he does, you can't fuck with him. Just his charisma and showmanship is insane. Dext, DP, I know I'm going to omit people and feel terrible about it. Whoop, there it is. Zesty Suspects. That guy there is nobody like Whoop, there it is.
Yeah.
That guy is crazy. I don't know if you've seen the joint I had with him, but that I feel is low-key.
So
We battled in January for Smoked Out Battles, which the homie Redshirt Mike runs. And it was set up as a Patreon exclusive for them. So kind of an incentive to get more people on board, just supporting the league, helping them throw events down the line. And we did just a 1 round, unlimited time, gun bars only. And just most fun I've had in a battle. That was just bananas.
Oh yeah, that's a fact. But I wanted to ask about that. I knew I was forgetting something. So the DDSS battle, where was that filmed at?
That was filmed at a spot in West Vancouver. So not to get too deep into the topography of Van, but Pigsty is based out of North Van, which is just a hop and skip over from Vancouver proper. And then sort of to North Van's west is West Van. And so that's definitely like a very different, it's a lot more kind of opulent. It's out in the wilderness. So we drove for like probably 2 hours just to get out there from where everybody's at in Van into this park that was low-key just these people's backyard. And so we're just looking at a spot that would be good to film it in, because Stu already had this preconception of what he wanted to do, for kind of similar to when he battled Random. And it was just this wholly singular, unique environment that you wouldn't necessarily conceive of a battle in. And so we got to the spot. You can see the ocean, you can see Vancouver in the background, the forest, the mountains. We're like, yeah, this is it for sure.
Yeah, the aesthetic was definitely very dope. You know what I mean? They about to say, I think it gives a good vibe, and I feel the exact same way about the Random and Pigsty match. By the way, that is a fucking heater. If no one has
Absolutely. Flames.
But yeah, I wanna we always ask whenever we bring people up here, is there anything that you do that you want to shed light on outside of battle rap? You know what I mean? Music, any type of like film, anything, just stuff like that.
Word. It's definitely something I've been slacking on a little bit, because I did, especially when I was in college, do a little bit of music on the side. Nothing that I ever did to the point that I was ever wholly satisfied with it, but that's definitely a grind I want to get back on. So definitely keep your eyes peeled. I'll be trying to get a little more active on that front. Definitely get at me, social media, at Illipsis HVB on everything that matters. My Instagram is basically just me cooking, but fuck with that. I'm the GOAT. But yeah, man, I'm not doing too much on the side other than just trying to work and live and do these battles when I get them.
Yeah, and that's about to say. I mean, I know. I mean, without giving too much away, what are you like striving for right now? I thought you are you a student right now? You said.
No, man. So that was through most of my battles. I definitely was. So I was juggling a couple hats at that point. But it was,
Okay.
yeah. Man, it's been a minute. I graduated a year ago with a BA in history. So I've been doing completely unrelated work because you can't get a job with that. But it's still that definitely, I've got esoteric stuff I can use in battles now. So there's
Yeah,
always a silver
exactly.
lining.
But
But
yeah,
yeah, man.
I mean, the reason that I ask is because I mean, with about to say with the way you carry yourself, it's a very intellectual approach. I mean, you know what I mean. To stereotype it, it would be nerdy white kid. You know what I mean. But I don't think there's really anything wrong with that if that's how you brand yourself and if you're talented at what you do.
For sure, yeah. There's definitely an element to that, and I've gone into this in the past. It's actually the way I view my writing process at this point. It is almost like academic writing in its own way. It was a pattern I sort of fell into, especially when I was in school. Was I realized that when I'm prepping for essays and prepping for battles at the same time, it's really the same approach. Is you isolate what your thesis is going to be, you get information or points to support that. And generally, the thesis is just that I'm better than you in a battle. So it's how do I support that in the context of this opponent? Like, what sort of research goes into it? How do I frame it? How do I put it in context? How do I give it a logical flow? So really, my process in battles is derived from what my process was as a student as well.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't like I say, I don't think there's really a whole lot else to cover. I mean, it's been very informative. I mean, some behind the scenes that maybe people don't know. I mean, I know I've already asked you about your dream matches, but is there anything that you really like hope to aspire from the battle rap game?
I mean, I think it's the same as what we all do. It's just a wider recognition and kind of an affirmation of what we put into it. You know what I mean? Like the
Well,
fact,
let me
especially.
just go ahead and say the shit. Then, do you want the chain?
I mean, yo, that would be tight. I see like I'm starting to pop up in contention for it. It's not something I'm opposed to. It's not something I would say that I'm actively pursuing. I think there's people who are campaigning more for it, who have put in more work for it specifically that need that shot now. But once the groundwork is in, once I think I'm more comfy with where I'm at from a performance piece, yeah, I'll snatch it from whoever has it, no doubt.
I mean, and no disrespect, this is not proud, but this probably isn't a very realistic possibility given the amount of challengers he has to go through first. But I think it would be a very interesting dynamic to see Ellipsis versus Head Ice for the title.
That would be, yeah, man. That would be a
It'd be a
style
hell of
clash
a thing.
to say the least, man. That would be fun. I got nothing but respect for the Wolf, but yeah, we could still talk about some things for sure.
Yeah, that's a fact. But yeah, man, I'm about to say. So I think that's about it. I mean, me and Dre definitely appreciate you coming through, showing love. And I mean, whenever about to say, we'll definitely try to get you back up here in the future after you have a couple of things drop or get set up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I definitely appreciate you guys putting me on. I appreciate your time. Thanks for getting me out here. Like I say, at Ellipsis HVB on everything. But yeah, appreciate y'all and salute for everyone listening in.
Hey, yo, that's a fact. Hey, yo, before we get out of here, can you do us a favor and give the Outsider Media Group a quick shout out, real quick?
Yes, sir. Yo, salute to Outsider Media, man. This is Ellipsis. It's been nothing but a pleasure hanging out with you guys. Salute.
Hey, yo, salute to you, my brother.